Hello everybody that is curious. This is Chris and I am signing on to yet another episode on my Curious of Mystery channel. So, today marks the beginning of our Epistemology series. So, as with anything that begins, we are going to be giving a basis as to what the future of this series will entail. So first off, I'm going to take that red color scheme and that icon from the initial What is Philosophy series where I represented epistemology as the brain. So, here we go. First off, epistemology can be broken down into two main categories, those being knowledge and logic. Logic, starting from the bottom and going up, logic is going to basically be everything from modus ponens, modus tollens, like I referred to earlier. It's also going to be kind of concepts as the square of opposition, the fallacies, multiple forms of just logistical thought. Logic is also where you tend to get the basis of mathematics and where the basis of physics can even come from. Now, knowledge. Knowledge is more akin to knowledge and logic together kind of birth science, while logic tends to birth mathematics more directly. The reason why I say that science is knowledge and logic is because science typically it uses inductive logic, which induction, abduction, deduction, these are all forms of thought and kind of ways to process reality. There's also skepticism and really almost anything you can think of which involves the way that we know knowledge. This also entails what is knowledge itself? What do we need to get knowledge? And when should we be skeptical? When should we not be skeptical? Should we have high standards for knowledge or should we have low standards? One very, very famous example, it's not of my own right, but of somebody else's creation. There's an example of a stranger is going to a zoo, and they're visiting the portion that has zebras. Now, I don't know if any of you are aware of this, but in the early 1900s, they used to paint and cut the hair of donkeys to make them appear as zebras, because zebras were from Africa and it cost a lot of money to get them. But this cutting of hair and painting of donkeys fooled a lot of people into thinking that they're zebras, and really you only would know about it if you were looking for it. So the thought experiment goes like this, and it kind of tests different standards of knowledge. But anyways, I'm going to stop going off of discussion. It means that she visits the zebra's pen. She's about 50 feet away from this zebra that the zebra's pen is stating is a zebra. Now, she could believe that that's a zebra, and when asked by a little kid, "Hey, is that a zebra?" she rationally, with the given circumstances, she's in a zoo, the pen says that they're zebras, and it looks like a zebra to what she understands. So she could answer with low standards of knowledge, which is our typical standard, and she could say, yes, that is indeed a zebra, and she could be correct. However, there's the other case, the high standard, and this person would look at that and be like, that could be a donkey. They could be lying about the zebra pen. It could really not be a zebra. They probably saved money. It is far enough away where I wouldn't know the difference, and I can't do genetic testing, biology examinations, or autopsies, so I don't know if that is a zebra. So they would be correct. A person with high standards of knowledge would be correct in saying, I do not know if that is a zebra or a doctored donkey. So that's just some examples as to what knowledge entails. Logic entails basically things like A is A. If A leads to B and B leads to C, then A leads to C. And logic we'll be discussing a lot and it'll cover Venn diagrams, the square of opposition, statements, argumentation, argument forums, and knowledge will basically be less common, but we will discuss like exotic topics on like what is knowledge, what are the different forms of knowing, and how do we know that we have true justified belief, which is commonly considered knowledge by the philosopher, true justified belief. So we have already covered common ground, which involves the use of reason. It involves integrity, rational perceptualism, and clarity. All of these are going to be vital in each of the fields that we're going to be discussing philosophy on. But this reason aspect is very first one, and integrity, even clarity, and rational perceptualism, all of them apply to how epistemology layers itself and how you really get to understand things at such a basic level. Because you're going to want to, when you're thinking epistemologically, you're going to want to separate yourself from the everyday. Like, let's take that zebra example that I stated earlier. Every day we think of certain things and we make assumptions off of experiences. Experience is a form of knowledge that we all tend to assume as reality. But how often is experiences wrong? Sometimes we can see a mirage, sometimes we could hallucinate, and sometimes we could just dream of something or misremember, or just experiences are pretty subjective as well. What you see does not mean that's the same thing I see. What you feel doesn't mean it's the same thing I feel. And by feel, I mean the sense of touch. And any other sense, like smell, hearing, all of that is subjective. And we both could experience the same thing and yet remember completely different situations from the same exact experience. And that is why when you're thinking logic and reason, you're separate from other forms of thought. You're not going to be using experience, tradition, intuition, and yada yada yada. There's a couple others, and we'll talk about them in the future. But the reason why I bring this up is that in the case of the zebra thought process, is our day-to-day we consider we would be tricked. Whether or not that's a donkey or a zebra, we wouldn't know, and we wouldn't question it. However, when studying logic and the reason for things, you question even the obvious. Even if something is believed to be a certain way by how you're grown up or what you think, many people, so many people, will just think the way that they think. They won't question themselves. And they won't bring up these challenging situations in which it doesn't make sense. And the reason why we put ourselves purposefully in these uncomfortable, unknown situations is it allows you to understand what it means to know and the characteristics of logic. Integrity, rational perceptualism, and clarity, all three of these will aid, and especially reason. Reason will be directly conductive to logic. Now finally, the square of opposition. This will be covered vastly in logic. It will also be used some in knowledge through the argumentation that will be apparent in knowledge, but it will mainly be found in logic. Now, this isn't closing of the entire episode, but this is closing over the introduction of epistemology. For epistemology's main branches include knowledge and logic. Logic is by vast, insurmountable degrees more popular and more, I would say, applicable than knowledge. Knowledge is still a very, very important field, and we will cover it, but what I'm planning on doing is probably doing 2 episodes of logic to 1 episode knowledge. That way I can cover logic in a greater detail because there's more of the information out there. And knowledge is more theoretical in the sense that it's gonna be pretty complex. So I will tell you guys in the comment section below if anything changes. Just keep a lookout and check out the comment section. So, I'm first going to do a recap, because my YouTube channel is getting a little bit complicated with all the series that I'm having. So, for simplicity's sake, we're going to have the core philosophy series, which is the kind of sibling to this one, where this one derived off of. And the core philosophy series will be weekly on Wednesdays, and it will be released around 12:15 to 15 Pacific time. This translates to 3:15 or 18:15 Eastern Central Time. I will also be releasing episodes on Fridays every week, so Fridays and Sundays, but this will be until the ethical series begins, because I'll then replace the Friday date with ethics. So Epistemology, this series that you are currently watching, will be released weekly on Mondays. 12:15 to 15:15 is the same, and this starts today until the foreseeable future. Now the Metaphysics series. This one will start weekly on Thursdays at the same timing. This will begin next week on Thursday. Now Ethics. This will be weekly on Fridays, and this will be basically 2 weeks down the road on Friday, so it's practically like 19 days away, and actually I think less than that, but it will be 14 days away, I think. It'll be pretty far away. However, when this one begins, then Core Philosophy will stop releasing twice a week and will release once, and the goal is that each of the series get 1 episode a week. Now, that is the end of the presentation and the quick roundup, and I hope you guys always stay curious in the mystery, and Chris is signing off.